I don't know if anyone can hear me. If you can leave a reply in the comment section. Okay. I think we'll just go right into it. So happy Children's Day to and those of us who are here to welcome everyone to this exciting conversation on for children, well-being in Africa. This was it, and I'm delighted to be a moderator for this lovely session. This program was organized by the Pan-African Center for AI Ethics, where I serve as an executive member in the research department. The Pan-African Center for AI Ethics is dedicated to ensuring and advancement of responsible AI. Our organization focuses on key concepts relating to accountability, transparency, and overall human welfare. This includes normative values, concerns, potential involved in AI integration and optimization in Africa. We provide coverage on issues associated within the African experience, culture, interactions, and perceptions on AI tools and their deployment. Our vision is to ensure that AI design, deployment, and use align to Africa's ethical standards and values. We are committed to promoting human-centric AI within the African context. Our mission is to shape the future of Africa's AI landscape to reflect ethical and responsible dimensions of the African society. I do want to give a special thank you now to Navigating Noah, AI, and Child Solidarity Group for their support in making this event a success. So let's get into the conversation. Today's discussion focuses on AI for children, right-being, and vulnerability in Africa. First, I'll be introducing speakers. Speaker one is Oleyede Olajumoke Elizabeth. Oleyede is a senior special threat intelligence and hunting in Tengo. He's a senior specialist in threat intelligence and hunting in Tengo. She's an experienced and successful cybersecurity professional with specialty in security ops, threat intelligence, and threat hunting. Olajumoke is a public speaker, mentor, and coach with proven records of success. She has various certifications in training and cybersecurity from Microsoft, CompTIA, and e-learning security, to mention a few. Speaker two is Bethabile Sefi. Bethabile is a researcher and content writer. She has her diploma in adult basic education and training from the University of South Africa and is currently studying in BA in Government Administration and Development with UNISA. Her input is circled around civic leadership, given that she is an alumna of Young Africa Leaders Initiative, ILC South Africa. In 2021, she became a freelance researcher for Global Foundation for Cybersecurity and Research, think tank based in Washington, D.C., where she explores topics in cyber psychology, cyber mental health, and cyber disorders. The has contributed in 2 international white papers presented in Singapore, one of which is titled Cyber Psychology and Digital Wellbeing, the other being Both the Industrial Revolution, Cyberspace, Mental Wellbeing, Harnessing Technology for Humanity. Her passion is in youth and child development within the lines of digital hygiene, cyberspace, and exploring the use of technology among youth and children. Today is Susan Otieno. Ms. Susan Otieno is a legal partner from Nairobi, Kenya, currently focused on AI research and data protection. Her day-to-day consists of training organizations on data protection and collaborating with legal practitioners on research projects. Going straight to the conversations for today, I'll be giving a short intro on AI as regards children's rights before we go into asking because
Hi, Lois. I'm not sure if you can hear me well. I can barely hear you. Seems your network is not too good. Um, I'm not sure if this is coming from my end, but I can barely hear you.
Can, I don't know, can anybody else hear me? Can anybody else hear me?
Hi Lois, your audio
Okay,
is
I'm breaking. I'm so
your
sorry.
audio is not quite legible, but I hope it gets better. But I can't really hear you clearly.
Maybe, can you hear me now? Am I more audible?
You sound so far, and
I'm sorry, can you hear me? I sound far. About that.
Hi everyone. So I'll just step in for Lois while we are trying to fix in the audio.
Is it
Please
better now?
confirm if you are
Am I not
able to
audible?
hear me.
um, Kingsley, I can hear you very well.
Yes, yeah, I can
All
hear
right.
you.
All right. So Lois, you might want to step out. You might step out a bit and then try stepping in again. So while you're in, I would just add you to so you come on stage. I'll just step in. I'll step in quickly for Lois. So thank you all panelists for joining today's call. We are having a very, very crucial conversation today as it relates to AI and children. And many thanks to Children Solidarity Group for sponsoring and navigating with me for sponsoring this particular event. Um, we have persons, from these two bodies on the call. I want to acknowledge Franklin, one of our panelists. I'll just read a bit about him and then just kickstart the conversation while Lois is just trying to get in internet fixed. Lois, once you're able to get it fixed, just drop a comment for me or just say something so I will know you are back. So we have Franklin here. Franklin Udeme is a multi-dimensional professional with a background in medical and public health and vast experience in health projects management and communication. His area of competence is in digital media relations and strategic communication of organizational objectives from health programs and initiative to beneficiary, leveraging his extensive understanding of public health concern and his skills in media relations. He possesses a track record of success as head of communication at Child Solidarity Group and the Fair Internship Initiative (FII) Geneva, among other corporate and NGO. Welcome, Frank. It's really great to have you on the call this evening as we, together have this conversation on on the impacts of AI for children. Without wasting much of our time, I would just want to to go straight into the
Thank you
conversation.
very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. While we are waiting for Lois to join in the call, just a few seconds while I pull it out.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Just a few seconds while I pull it out and wait for Lois to join the conversation. Just a moment. Just a moment, please. So this evening we are talking about AI for children, and today the world is celebrating you know Children's Day, and we are looking at the impact of AI on children. I'll just read a bit on what we are considering, and we'll kickstart the conversation pending when Lois is able to um, join. So the development of artificial intelligence has introduced significant innovation, including systems that have allowed room for total convenience and enhancement in how we work, communicate, play, heal, enhance our society, and learn. The United Nations Convention on Rights of the Children (UNCR) set a legally binding international agreement containing every child's civil, political, economic, and socio-cultural rights, regardless of race, religion, or abilities. These rights can be broadly organized into four categories. Number one, survival survival rights. These include the right to life and access to essential services such as food, shelter, adequate living, and medical services. Number two, development rights. This includes the right to education, play, leisure, cultural activity, access to information, freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. Number three, protection rights. This includes the right to be protected from all form of abuse, neglect, and exploitation. Number four, participation rights. This includes the rights to freedom of expression, to have a say in matters affecting their lives, and to join association and to assemble peacefully, notwithstanding the provisions of this right. Parents play a pivotal role in actualization of this right. Now, the purpose of this panel is aims to understand the opportunities and threats of all technology for children, of AI technology for African children, and provide constructive criticism on, available AI for children policy guidelines, law, regulation on the African continent. This session will is an ongoing session. This session we have it's an ongoing project we are working on that includes a research, a panel conversation, and also a policy brief. And we are looking at how we can use this project to influence policy. And I want to especially welcome our panelists to the call this evening. And I'll just start with some few questions. My question first will go to Franklin from the Child Solidarity Group. Franklin, what are the primary ways in which AI currently impacts the life of children in Africa? You are muted. Kindly unmute. You are muted.
Okay, I
All right.
hope you
Okay.
can hear
Awesome.
me all.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, thank you very much. So sorry about that. Yeah, so at Child Solidarity Group, being an NGO that's working to advance the economic rights of children and women by extension, um, we look at the key development index, right? What they call HDIs, mostly in this kind of conversation, and a few ways in which we feel AI can impact or currently impacts the lives of children, of course, is in education. There is safety and security. So, for instance, in education, we have AI powered tools and platforms that can be used, to provide personalized learning experiences for children, especially in remote and underserved areas. For instance, one of our projects at CSG, we call it the Nkwado Initiative. It's an empowerment project for girls in remote communities where they really lack basic amenities and it's one of the ways we hope to deploy technology, right? It's one project where we hope to deploy technology to advance and give those children, those young girls, a chance at competing, with their peers. So in those kind of situations where we have to infuse AI-powered tools and platforms, you can use it in education and healthcare. I would say AI has developed in a way that you can now use it for, as a diagnostic tool, right, to help monitor um, health and improve children's health outcomes. So generally, so I would like to pick lastly on security. Yeah, because the AI space is, uh, I think there is a little bit of ethics issues, but with the proper application of ethics in safety and security of children using AI algorithms that can help in monitoring online activities that aim at protecting children from cyberbullying and online predators. So I think those are one of some of the primary ways in which AI currently impacts children. We can see that safety can be enhanced through monitoring of online activities by AI powered tools. So, thank you. Hello?
Thank you so much, Franklin. Just want to confirm if Lois is back. Lois, are you back?
Okay.
All right. So while we are confirming that, thank
So,
you so much,
so,
Franklin.
so I want to add, sorry, I want to add another thing is, um, you know, in education also, AI translation services, right, can make educational content readily available in various languages, right? And this can broaden the access to information. So in education, that aspect of translation makes it easier for information to be spread across to those children, especially in the remote areas or where there is little or no civilization, right? And you're just trying to infiltrate those places and get children to get education. So those kind of translational services or translation services of AI can help in that regard. Thank you very much, Kingsley.
Thank you so much, Franklin. Um,
Yeah.
I would just want to have like a follow-up question. You just mentioned about education here, and I want to
Yes.
ask them Olajumoke on this. You know, on the question of education, can you describe some positive impact of AI technology on African children's education and social interaction? Looking at your background in cybersecurity.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kingsley. I hope that you can hear me very well and I'm audible
Yes, I
enough.
can hear you.
All right. So going
Yes, you are.
to your question, where you mentioned something related to education. If I get your question correctly, you want me to talk about um advantages or some
Yes, on the
impact, the
positive
impact
impact
that
actually.
the positive impact. Okay. Um,
Yes.
with AI, you can reach as many culture as possible. Franklin also mentioned that. I'm going to buttress on that. That with AI, it is possible to produce a lot of learning materials in different languages, irrespective of who is developing the resources, right? So that reduce the time taken to produce such materials and also enhances resilience in the part of the instructor such that it will be translated from one culture to the other. Being an African continent, we have diverse cultures, we have diverse languages, and there are so many of that, of which if an educator will want to go into each of those cultures and languages, it's going to cost a lot. So one of the positive impact is that it reduces cost. It ensures learning optimization such that children can learn in their own language, even if they are not digitally literate. They maybe, let me not say digitally literate, if they are not literate in English language, they can easily learn. And then by so doing, um, materials will be able to travel far and beyond, to different areas, especially to the grassroots. Also, when we talk about education, with AI, you can tailor your you can tailor resources based on age appropriate materials. For example, you can tell AI to produce resource material based on for children of 10 to 12 years. And somehow is going to do that for you using the large language model and other generative AIs. So these are some of the things that positively impact the children, as they will have access to diverse learning. They will have access to diverse learning materials. They will have access to a lot of resources and references, of educational materials. And by so doing, it reduces cost, it reduces stress, it enhances resilience, educational resilience, and it also helps to increase, to broaden visibility on those materials. I think with that, yeah, those are some of the things on top of my mind right now that I can say that can pose a positive impact on children. Okay, I hope I'm audible and
Yes, yes, you are. You are. Lois,
right.
are you able to talk
Yes,
now?
you are. Yes, sir.
All right. So while we are still getting set for Lois, so we see that AI is actually it has its positive work. I mean, it has the things, the positive impact it's having on the life of children. Right. It's not as though it is that bad as we are looking at it, because there is this conversation we have people having these days when they talk about AI. What we just look at is that no, 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 that thing is bad. That thing is no, we should not introduce it to children, this and that. And this. But we see that, there is something significant AI is doing without our knowledge, that it's actually doing in our lives, right? My next question is going to Retabelli. Ret, what are the main challenges to enhancing child safety in the digital space commonly assessed by African children? Let me say it again. So, what are the main challenges of ensuring child safety, in digital space, commonly, assessed by African child? Looking at your background in, child online safety, and all the works you have done online, with the online at the online safety space. What do you think are the basic challenges African children usually encounter using those spaces? You are muted. You might want to turn off. Yeah, good. We can hear you now.
Can you hear me now? Oh, thank you so much for the question,
Yes, I
Kingsley.
can hear you.
I think we need to look at it. I think we need to look at it from 2 points. The first one will be we need to look at children in the urban areas, and then we need to look at children in the rural areas as well, including the marginalized groups. So usually the main challenges that you'll find is that most of these children have limited experience when it comes to the digital space. The other one is they're very vulnerable and high costs. We need to look at the high costs because if you're in a marginalized group or if you're living in the rural areas, you need to understand that the the internet flow or data flow isn't the same as someone who's in the urban area. And then we need to look at the lack of awareness about the different digital challenges that exist. the other part that we can also look at is we need to look at inadequate technological skills that the children have as well as the parents have. Because remember, in order for children to feel safe on the internet, it's not just it's collaborative effort between parents and different other child organized groups that need to help these children to feel safe online. So we need to look at it from different areas, and that's how we can really come up with relevant interventions to ensure that the children are safe. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Reth. You mentioned about some of the challenges children are actually encountering, on the internet. I would want to ask a follow-up question on this to Susan. Susan has had a lot of work around data protection, and also some work on AI research. So I want to ask you, Susan, what are the provision of the law on child bullying? Does it extend to the bullying that is orchestrated by AI algorithms, and what would we categorize as child bullying in the light of artificial intelligence? Susan.
Thank you for your question, Kingsley. I think aside from the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, I'm going to give an example of Kenya, Nigeria, and the African Union. So in Kenya, we have our constitution, and under Article 53, there is a provision for the child. So particularly with regard to their right to basic education and also their right to be protected from abuse and all forms of violence and inhumane treatment. And this implies both in a physical and like a digital space. And so there are other legislations that operationalize this article, which would be the Children's Act and the Sexual Offences Act. I think these talk, broadly about child protection, bullying, and I think when it comes to artificial intelligence, we're seeing that it has augmented the ways in which this bullying can be done. And so, for example, you will find potentially children going online and using some of these tools to generate or create text or images that they would then disseminate or circulate in kind of the perpetration of the cyberbullying. And so we're seeing that there is the risk, but there's also the potential, as has been highlighted. And so for Kenya, those would be some of the examples. In Nigeria, I believe mostly there is the Cybercrimes Act of 2015. And under Section 15, I think there is it provides for, I think, just child protection and also highlights a penalty of about, I think, 2 million naira. And then for the African Union this year, I think it was in February, they adopted a child online safety and empowerment policy. And this one mainly talks about how, accessing the digital space for children in Africa. And so we're seeing that, there might not be as much when it comes to artificial intelligence and, laws regarding cyberbullying and artificial intelligence, but the conversation is happening. And for example, with the African Union, there is this policy now, which ideally will be disseminated to the member states, and we will begin to see more movement around legislative action and regulation and also laws around the sector. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan, for that. So we see that from your conversation, um, there are laws that actually govern both the internet, govern the children, govern the internet aside, govern children aside, but there isn't there is insufficient law that specifically touch questions on artificial intelligence as it relates to children. The next question would be both for Susan and Franklin. So we see that child pornography in some places in Africa, if not all, are seen as a criminal offense and usually penalized. And we want to look at it from the perspective of artificial intelligence. And that's why I'm asking this next question. What are the provisions of the law on child pornography? Do the provisions extend to AI generated pornography? Because these days we now see that there are models that you are able to generate any image by just a couple of prompts. So when pornography images are generated by algorithms, do we classify them as child pornography? And what are the laws that govern such acts? I'll start from Franklin and then to Susan.
Okay, sorry. Please confirm you can hear me loud and clear. All right. Thank you very much. So yeah, about legal provisions, right? That target child pornography. From what I know, the laws against child pornography, of course, they are very stringent everywhere around the world. It's a serious issue that many countries are taking. They take it very, very seriously. Things like prohibiting creation, distribution and possession of such materials. They are very, very stringent. But there is a major challenge as it stands in the nature of AI generated content, right? So, while not all jurisdictions, I would say, explicitly mention AI generated child pornography in their laws, right? I know that there is an evolving recognition of that need, to be included in such provisions. Many countries are beginning to adapt their laws, right, to ensure that AI generated explicit content, you know, especially those involving minors, are equally condemned and prosecuted. So I would say that the legal status of AI generated child pornography is still an evolving one, and it's left to be seen what the future holds, because I can't really think of specific laws that target, explicitly AI generated child pornography. But maybe Susan would have something, to add to that. But so far, from what I can see, yeah, that's what I can say. I think it's an evolving situation, so we just see what it has to develop.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Franklin has said. I don't think there's a specific provision that highlights or stipulates a situation or provides for AI generated child pornography, but as I mentioned at the beginning, it is implied. So, for example, in Kenya, our constitution under Article 53 speaks on protection of the child and um, protection against all forms of violence, abuse, and inhumane acts. And so, because the conversation on artificial intelligence is growing and evolving, there's an implication, but maybe we'll then see that kind of reduced into a more specific law. We do have the Sexual Offences Act of 2006, and under Section 16, it provides for child pornography. And so one of the examples would be maybe expanding that section so that it integrates
Right.
AI generated child pornography. In the EU, they have the Child Sexual Abuse Directive, and that one again specifically speaks on child pornography. And I think in the UK, they have the Protection of Children Act, the Sexual Offences Act, Criminal Justice Act. They have a number of laws that cover child pornography. I think one of the most immediate examples that I came across is last year in Australia. There was the first one of the first reports of a child using artificial intelligence to bully another child. And the e-safety commissioner called on the tech industry to implement protections around generative AI, and ideally because of their, this situation where they were logging the first report on sexually explicit artificially generated imagery being used by children to bully others. And so I think that's quite a direct example for this situation and for this session. And one of the recommendations that they gave in this Australian example was for the integration of watermarks, both visible and invisible, age verification protocols, and also transparency reports. And so we're seeing that it is an evolving situation, and I think regulation and policy will follow. And so, yeah, we hope that there's also a quicker pace, because we see how much AI is changing and also advancing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. Um, I am aware that the question of child pornography is an emerging area, and we are glad that some places in the world there are I'll call it use cases now that the government or the policymakers, or the legislative are now seeing the the need to really come up with legislation that has to that has to tackle the question of child pornography, because whether we like it or not, we have to look at it that is it a question of using a real child, or is it are we trying to protect the image of a child or the image of the child? So image of a child means that the general definition of what a child is, or image of the child, which means the child in question. So notwithstanding, a child is a child, whether it's AI generated or it is a real child. But notwithstanding, there should be, I believe that this should spike up conversation on protecting, extending the definition of a child of pornography to include pornographies that are, cases that are AI generated. We want to go to the next question on Reth. I'll call you Reth here, Rethabeli. And it is still on the question of, children and their safety. We want to look at it now, looking at Africa and its definition of who a child is. Can we categorize a child as a data subject? And what are the provisions of the law on children as data subjects? So we know that, so what's your thought on this, especially on the question of data subjects? Do we categorize the child as data subject? And what does the law have to say about this?
Thank you again, Kinsley, for the question. I think we know that a child is a person below the age of 18, and according to the General Data Protection Regulation, it stipulates that a person who is a data subject is any person who can be identified through names, online identifier, or as a natural person. And it also extends to location data, physicals, physiological, mental, and economic conditions. So that is what a data subject is, and children are part of that. So just to answer your question, yes, I think that children can be categorized as data subjects. And we also, and according to the GDPR again, children have the same rights as adults over the personal data, which is information stipulated, whether on websites or whatever sites or services they're receiving, has to be transparent and clear, privacy notice. The rights they have the rights have to be informed. So children need to understand and know what they're getting themselves involved in, whether it's through the websites they're visiting or whatever information or whatever it is that they're doing. But when you visit a website, for example, and you read the terms and conditions and how your data is being generated, it has to be in terms where children need to understand it. But again, the challenge comes when, because we know that for children that are 13 years, 12, 11, we know at some point that the cognitive development isn't that developed. So sometimes they will need a parental guidance to read through the terms and conditions just for them to understand what it is that they're agreeing to and to know where the personal data is going. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ref, on the question of data subjects. And from your answer, we see that a child is a person, therefore, that's identifiable, and therefore it can fall under the definition of who a data subject is, which means that um, the data protection laws definitely identify children as data subjects. It's just that the provisions on children is quite flexible under the supervision of an adult, you know, on that. My next question would go to Olajumoke, and still on the question of data subjects. How should we address children's privacy and data protection concern in AI applications? You might want to look at it from perspective of either um, um, a cybersecurity personnel, algorithm developer, or just a general an AI specialist. How should we identify? How should we handle or address children's, data privacy concerns in AI applications?
Okay, thank you, Kingsley, for that question. So, one of the key things in addressing that concern is ensuring digital literacy. I feel Africa, we are not ready for artificial intelligence, even though it is here to stay and it has become relatively become part of our lives. But I feel that the preparation is not matching with the same energy that artificial intelligence is bringing to the table. And when we look back to the African countries, the first question that popped to my mind when you raised that question is, what is the rate of digital literacy in the continent? How many people really understand what it takes to be digitally literate? How many people understand a digital economy? How many people understand what it takes to live in a digital world? I think that is one of the first concerns that need to be addressed. Going, I applaud a lot of non-government organizations that have been working tirelessly to educate people in the grassroots, in the in remote areas on digital literacy. I applaud their effort a lot, and I'm also calling for more of that effort and collaboration. The first thing first is to increase digital literacy. Afterwards, we can now bring in the different applications, the different use cases of the digital world, of which artificial intelligence is part of. And you know, even if you ask someone that seems to be a little bit digitally literate in the world today, especially in African countries, what artificial intelligence is, he or she may not necessarily be able to answer your question to the best, to a satisfactory level, because it's still an evolving thing. And many people will say, what is AI? What is AI? What is AI? Even when we come to security aspect of it, people will be like, no, but we are just excited about what AI is bringing to the table. We don't want to look at the dark side of artificial intelligence. Just allow us to enjoy it. So I believe that having appropriate resources, education resources for people, will also help to alleviate that concern. And even when if I mention today that parental guidance and all that, even the question is, do the parents understand what is artificial intelligence? So I believe that um we need to do more in that area of awareness and training, appropriate age and cultural awareness and training. Please, I'm very, very specific about the cultural and age specific, because we don't want to generalize things in Heha here. I know we do a lot of generic things in Africa. We believe that one cap fits everything, which is not. So I believe that um, having resources, training, awareness, let people be aware of what artificial intelligence is. Then by then we can bring in the issues, the concerns, and raise the challenge on how to reduce this kind of the on how to reduce the effect of the concerns that has been raised. So I believe in raising resources, using resources that are geographically aligned, age-wise aligned, and culturally aligned. And also, another thing that we need to bring into the table is having a standard law guiding artificial intelligence applications. I believe so much in application security. Even though our developers will tell you that all they want to do is usability, user interaction. They want to enhance user interaction. They want the user to be able to play with it. They want to enhance user experience of the applications. Yet we battle a lot when it comes to application security. Security shouldn't be something at the top. It should be something from the ground, from the basis. So while we are developing, we are enthusiastic, we are impressed by what artificial intelligence can bring to the table in Africa. We just want to do things with ease. We no longer want to write reports. We no longer want to use our logical sense to solve questions, to solve homeworks. Even though we are very enthusiastic about the good side of it, I believe that educating our application developers, I mean artificial intelligence developers, will help a lot. Now, just for example, before I wrap this answer up, talk about applications like artificial intelligence toys. you know um if care is not taken, these toys will, one way or the other, lead to harassment. It will, one way or the other, lead to sextortion. Permit me to use that word. And then it will, one way or the other, increase data, like data collection, invariably data collection that they are not supposed to collect. And before you know it, things will get out of hand. So understanding the basic application security for intelligence, for artificial intelligence applications, will also help to safeguard not only the children, but because our main concern today is children, but we also help to safeguard everyone. And last but not the least is the implementation of privacy. When we talk about privacy, I do tell people whatever that has gone online, permit me to say, is that is no longer private. Even though you say it's the data usage is subjected to the data subject, to the data owner. I know, but the thing is, policies change, and in Africa we don't read. You will see terms and policy apply, we just tick it. We don't even know about the policy. We don't know about the terms and condition that really applies to all of these things. But because we are so much in a hurry that we want to go on and just finish up the application, we click it, we check the terms and policy, terms, conditions, and policy, of which we don't even understand it. A very popular application online stated that one of the things in their policy is that they can use whatever information you post in there for anything that they like. But we did not read it to that level for us to really understand that, oh no, I'm not in for this. But because we just want to go, let's go. So the issue of data privacy need to be addressed over and over. We need to make our people aware, especially the parents. If we said today that parents, there should be a parental or caregiver guidance for these children. If the parent and the caregiver do not know, they cannot do anything. They cannot help the children. So why that is one of that's why I will go back to iterate the first the first thing I mentioned around appropriate, age appropriate, geographical appropriate, and culturally appropriate awareness and training is going to help a lot more. And don't forget, we have a lot of geographical and cultural diversity in Africa. That is a major challenge. And that is one thing that I believe that AI can help us to settle in between. But let's note that data privacy and security needs to be part of the development session, not when you have finished developing and then you feel that, oh, it can fly. Then you now remember, oh, we missed something, and that is security. Security is nothing. No application is good enough without security. I think let me just rest here.
Thank you very much. Um, that was quite know a a very robust contribution, and the fact remains that the question of privacy is not an afterthought. It's something that must be integrated throughout the algorithm life cycle. So you don't see that, oh, we're done, let us try to consider X, let's try to consider Y. Not at all. You know. So I want to ask the next question to Brett again, Brett and Susan. We're starting with Susan. What ethical guidelines should developers and policymakers follow when creating AI tools intended for use by children?
Thank you, Kingsley. I think, and I hope I'm going to say your name right, Oloyede has said a number of like important things. I think we often kind of, in our aspiration or our efforts to catch up to the West or the global North, we tend to forget that we are quite a different, we have a different environment, we have a different climate. And so we need to cut our coats according to our cloth. And this is even more respective when it comes to artificial intelligence and technology overall. We really need to think about how we're going to build awareness, build capacity, sensitize Africans on how to use artificial intelligence and also how to enforce their rights, because children are a sensitive group, and so they become susceptible and vulnerable to certain bad actors. And with, for example, the emergence of the Internet of Things, for example, which is kind of an interconnectivity of devices, it allows for bad actors to come in and surveil or use cameras, and hack into these devices, toys, as has been mentioned, and like other nefarious acts. And so when it comes to the ethical implications that developers should keep in mind, I think dignity, transparency, privacy, and security, as has been mentioned. I think there's also a responsibility that isn't often conveyed. The developer perceives their role as just the builder, the creator, but there's a responsibility to acknowledge that there are different audiences that might use the product, or even to think about the humanity aspect. There are people who are going to be using this. So, whether adults or children, what can I integrate as I build this thing? They talk about in GDPR and data protection, they talk about privacy by design, privacy by default. And we're also seeing ethics by design. And so it's important for developers to join the conversation and to start to think about how do we enforce or implement these things on dignity and trust and privacy and security, transparency. So yeah, I think those are some of the things that I would say, and I also echo um, Oloyede's comment on digital literacy. I think it's really important for us to understand, what a digital economy is in terms of our ability to participate and our capacity to participate. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Susan, for that. Red, do you have anything to add to what Susan has said?
Yeah, thank you very much, Kinsley. I think Susan and Oloyede, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, said quite a lot. And just to add on what Susan has said, I think one of the biggest things that we need to remember as Africans is that we process or we understand information totally differently from other 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 countries, And the first thing that I think is more important for your policymakers and developers to take in mind is that the AI tools should support African children's development and well-being. And when I speak of development and well-being, I'm talking about we know that we have different developmental milestones that as children we need to achieve in and AI AI needs to incorporate such developments. For example, when we talk of the cognitive development, we know that's where critical thinking is concerned. We know that that's where decision making is concerned, analytical thinking, so on and so forth. So policy makers and developers need to take that in mind, looking at African children, at what capacity are they when it comes to thinking, when it comes to their thought process, when it comes to independent um, making decisions independently or even solving problems. So I think that's the most critical part. And then the other elements would be to ensure that the AI tools should ensure safety for children. And as we've said that, well, as what Olo Yedi mentioned was that we normally, as adults, we normally don't read the terms and conditions that we see on websites we visit or services we get into. So imagine a child is really unable to read all that information. So how do we then ensure the safety of the children if they can't read the terms and conditions? Because we all know that it's a very long list that you have to go through. And then and just to throw in my one that I think is can also complement what I've just mentioned about ensuring safety for children is that the AI tools should be easy to read. They should be easy to read for children and very specific and relevant, and applicable at the end of the day. Because children can't read a long list of terms and conditions. The terms and conditions should be relevant and should incorporate everything that's necessary and should be making it easy for children to read. And lastly, I would say the AI tools should provide transparency, explainability, and accountability at the end of the day to ensure that they meet the ethical guidelines for children. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Red. Okay, am I audible? Yeah, thank you so much for that. Looking at the the role of ethical frameworks, imbibing them in AI, AI development life cycle. So while Jumoke was speaking, she mentioned about literacy. So I want to ask Franklin this question, and the question is: what initiatives are critical in enhancing digital literacy among children to prepare them for an AI-driven world? Considering your work at the CSG, what are the most critical initiatives that you think would be helpful to prepare children for the AI world?
Okay, thank you very much. I've listened to other speakers, even though I had a little network glitch. But yeah, in terms of initiatives um, that promote digital literacy, to prepare children, I feel one of the most critical is the educational curriculum. You know, educational curriculum of schools, especially in the formative years of learning. Integrating digital literacy and AI related subjects into the school curriculum is one way to ensure that these children are exposed, earlier to these concepts. Because, like we know, the future is AI, but the children have to be prepared, for this. And then, while that could happen, there is also the need for access to technology. For instance, what we are trying to do with the Nkwado initiative, Nkwado Girls Initiative at CSG. So we are trying to expose the children earlier to technological tools. So we want to acquire some gadgets that can help them even in those remote areas that there is basically no internet coverage, but some tools that can help them to learn even while they don't have those basic amenities. So access to technology is very, very critical, and that also falls to the infrastructural development of the government of the day. But that's notwithstanding, if they are exposed earlier to technological tools, they will definitely be prepared adequately for the future. And training programs, um, for instance, providing training programs for teachers, even the teachers themselves. Someone talked about reading, uh, reading the terms and conditions, right? It's a way of inculcating that habit. It's a way of also getting the teachers to be AI informed. Most learning materials are very, very outdated, especially in this part of the world. We're still learning about Vasco da Gama. We're still learning about Mungo Park and in many correct. So if teachers are being exposed to or training to deliver this literal digital literacy education effectively, it will be easier to then impact the children. For instance, in one of the pillars of our work at CSG, which has to do with mental health. What we did recently was to, train journalists on media reporting in sensitive cases like suicide and, trauma-related reporting. So with those kind of initiatives, right, training the people that are taking this message out. So the teachers, for instance, are the closest. So we offer these trainings for teachers, and it will help them to. They will be in a proper place and position, to deliver this literacy education to the children. So it's basically organizing also community-based programs and workshops that can play crucial roles in reaching children even outside the formal education system. So it boils down to three things, three key things: educational curriculum, right? Access to technology and training programs for the teachers that are handling these children in the various, even those that are not in the formal educational sector, educational system rather. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Franklin, for that elaborate answer. The next question also would be for you, yourself, and for Jumoke. And the question is, what role should African governments play in regulating AI to protect children? Now, this question is in two forms because we're trying to save time. So first of all, we'll look at what role should African governments play in protecting children, in protecting in regulating AI to protect children? That's the first question. The next question is, what are the roles of international organization, in this in protecting AI for children? So we want to look at it first of all from our government, and then also the role of international body like UNICEF, United Nations, and all those bodies that are specialized for children. What are their role in safeguarding children, in the age of artificial intelligence? So first Franklin, and then to Jumoke.
Okay, I would say in a nutshell, I feel like African governments, first of all, like the African Union, there is a charter for children's rights and all of that. I feel like most of these charters, right, the AU or other organizations, right, they don't try to ensure that these charters are implemented. Yes, they are binding documents. They are, some of them are not really binding documents, right? But I feel like if they are able to keep an eye, right, on these charters, these agreements, you know, and try to monitor how these are being implemented in the various member states, it would play a very crucial role in ensuring that children's things like the laws of those countries surrounding children are implemented, because it's like a step down from the top, to the latter. So if there is a charter, there is an agreement of all states, for instance, in the AU, if there is an agreement of such, and then there should be a body, saddled with the responsibility of ensuring that these things are adhered to. But basically, the individual governments should develop and enforce policies that ensure, ethical concerns and safe use of AI. That's what I would say. So continuous, also continuous monitoring of AI applications, is also very crucial in safeguarding children's rights and well-being.
Thank you, Jumoke.
Okay, so I thank you, Franklin, for that, for those points. I think I'll just mention 2 to 3 points that that are running on my mind right now. The very first one is the government. I mean, when we talk about the national government and the international one, the international bodies, they should sponsor research. I think that is one of the things that they need to do. Fund research and education. They need to fund research and education, ethical research, ethical AI
Yeah.
research and education. That is one of the things that I believe will help national government and then international bodies as well. Also, the design and production of age appropriate design resources will also help. I've seen some materials, not on artificial intelligence, but I've seen some materials related to security, how the parents can help the child and all that, appropriate ones from the toddler to middle age down up to the teenage. So I believe that if they can achieve that, they can also achieve that based on AI, based on artificial intelligence. So when they fund research and education, it will also, it will also flow to age appropriate, the design of age appropriate materials as well. This will also help to increase government, national government and international body participation, and also partnership. They need to partner, they need to collaborate. When they collaborate and when they partner together, I mean the national body and the international bodies, the national government and the international bodies, when they come together, it produces a lot more of effect on artificial intelligence. And also there should be a promoter, there should be a promoter of ethical artificial intelligence development. they should promote the ethical side of it, not the unethical side of it. And also, just like Franklin has mentioned, they need to monitor and have oversight on standards, on regulatory standards. This will also help. I know that in all processes, technologies, and everything, um, people, they are the most um hard hardened criminal, let me use that word in quotes, to monitor. You really cannot monitor them, but there are some sort of and this is also where the application of artificial intelligence will come into play as well. So the national body and the international bodies, the national government rather, and the international bodies can collaborate for magical oversight and monitoring. This will also help a whole lot. Yeah, so that's just it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I mean, that is quite, very brilliant. Very brilliant. And seeing that the fact remains that humans can always be humans when it comes to adhering to rules, but notwithstanding, when there are enforcement mechanisms and institutional oversight on these things, we see that there is a long way. It plays a whole lot of role in making this work. So we are already out of time, and we just have two more questions for Susan and for Red. Afterwards, we have the final comment from all speakers, and then we call it a day. So for Red Tabeli, let's see if you're able to talk. Um, the question is, how can children's voice be included in designing and implementing AI system that affects them? So while designing AI system, how do we ensure that the children's voice are included, in the modeling? Brett, are you able to talk? Okay, possibly why she's still trying to fix. Maybe she's having some internet glitch. I really can't tell why she's trying to fix that. Susan, your question: What, according to your view, what is the appropriate age for children to engage with AI system and technology? So, what do you think is the appropriate age that we should commit children to AI?
Honestly, I don't know because, at this point, we have children engaging with all sorts of like systems and like technology. It's from the iPad to the phone to the laptop, and sometimes it's passive. Like they're looking at the screen, and they're consuming. So, it's really hard to like think about at what age, when the exposure is so high. But I think if I were to give a response, I would say, mm, I'm thinking 18, but I think usually at by around 13, 14, children are already like engaging with these things. So I think maybe 14 would be kind of the honest answer. But I think conditional, based off of awareness, based off of training, and based off also of the parental guidance. Because I do think, parents, as much as they might not know as much, they are concerned about the well-being of their child. So, this would just be one added step in terms of the child's engagement online, and with the AI tools, or AI systems. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Does anybody also want to speak on this question, especially on the specific age that we think children should be exposed to AI applications? And when I mean AI applications, I mean all range of applications, right from generative to all LLMs and all those things. Does anybody have anything to say about that also?
Okay. Yeah. I think we could. It's a very dicey one because regulations around what constitutes legal age for children, or what constitutes children's age, it differs with many countries, it differs with many regions of the world. But I would say that the way the world is going, um exposure to digital platforms is very fast, right? So even children that are 2 years, 3 years are actually already handling, and you know they're able to use gadgets and all of that. So I feel like from the outset, from when a child is able to from the cognition ages, right, when they're able to differentiate A from B, um it is important that the parents, guardians, or whoever is responsible for watching over that child is able to monitor what is being fed into those systems, those gadgets, those platforms, right? So you cannot really exactly control, and that's where the issue of ethical concerns and policies come in, right? So if we are able to control it from that level, at that level, it just trickles down into whatever um, is being fed into the systems and the platforms that these children get exposed to as early as possible. So if you ask me a particular age, I wouldn't be able to speak about it. I wouldn't be able to fix a particular age, but I would say from the ages where they are exposed to gadgets and electronic devices, because these are embedded subtly. There is always, if parents are not careful, if guardians are not careful, you find out that subtly there is always that tendency of organizations, a tendency of predators, right, to infuse some type of uh, um, some things that uh, should I say, prey on these children. So it's very, very important that parents are vigilant. So from the very, very formative years, that's why I would say there's no specific age, because you cannot control basically how these things are done, but you can control what your children or what children get exposed to. That would be my contribution.
Thank you very much, Franklin. We are already 4 minutes behind schedule, and we are already rounding up this session. Do we have final words, final comments from panelists? I'll start from Jumoke down to Susan and then to Franklin. Do you have final words on this conversation?
Okay. My final words will be that I think I have three things. In order to enhance ethical artificial intelligence, not only in children, but specifically for children. Meanwhile, it can be deployed to other aspect of artificial intelligence. I think one of the things I'll mention three things, and then that will be it. The very first thing is to ensure data minimization. Artificial intelligence tools and applications should take what the minimum, the least thing that they need, not every other information about the user. That's the first thing. And I also believe that the second thing that should be part of the standards, that should be part of the laws that government, whether it's our national government or international bodies, should implement is reduction of retention limits. Retention limits. How long can they retain, hold on to this data? There was a day I saw something around a video of a small girl, and not just the small girl, but it's about a lady which artificial intelligence tool was able to, you know, turn around all her age on Earth and tell a story of everything about her from baby down to where she is. And I'm
Yeah.
like, where is the retention limit coming in from here?
Yeah.
Where do we implement it? I believe that those are the things that the government should implement, retention limit. And then the last thing I want to mention is there should be transparency on the privacy. The the artificial intelligence application should be transparent enough such that the users will know what they are collected, what is being collected, and what the collected is being used for. So transparency will enhance many of these privacy issue that we currently have in it. I think those are my 3 cents as final words for this thing. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be on this panel, and it is a great privilege. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jumoke. Susan?
Yeah, I think for me, I'll just say that we all have a role to play in online child safety, from the parent to the policymaker to the NGO to government. Might be varying in degree, but we all have a role to play. And so, yeah, I think it's really great to have this conversation, and thank you for the opportunity to engage and contribute. Yeah, well, that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, Franklin?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Kingsley, for putting this together. So my final words would be basically for us. Susan has just mentioned collaboration, has talked about. I want to say, knowledge sharing is very, very critical in this aspect, right? Sharing knowledge and best practices continually, because AI is evolving and things are going to definitely change. They are bound to change with time. So constant knowledge sharing, and of course, we mentioned sponsoring of research, right? So policy resources for greater impact should also be deployed, by all and sundry. Where there is need to pool resources and knowledge together to create a much greater impact, I think it should be a giving, right? And then finally, I would say constant capacity building, like what we are doing now, collaborating together from various organizations, countries, and platforms, to create and build capacity and share knowledge. It's very, very important in getting children and make safeguarding their well-being going forward. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much to the panelists. It was, a great session hearing your thoughts on AI for children, especially on their safety and their well-being. Um, Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your knowledge on this and also lending your voice to the conversation of child safety in the era of artificial intelligence. We are done with the session. I just have a few announcements and then we just call it a day. Um, this particular panel session is part of our ongoing project on AI for children. The project is in 3 categories. First, a research, and then a panel session. Afterwards, we are having a policy brief just to see how we can, influence the way things are done in nations on specifically on child exposure to artificial intelligence, right? I just want to remind us that our AI Ethics Summer School will be this August, and the application form would be available by the end of this week. You know, tell a friend, and please register once the application is out. Also, if you have any questions on this, you can just write us an email at pacfae@gmail.com, pacfiae@gmail.com, or you can check our website at www.pacfiea.org. Um, yeah, do well to follow us on all social media, on our Facebook, on our LinkedIn, Instagram, and also subscribe on our YouTube, and we see how we can continue this conversation. As I've mentioned, thank you so much for joining this conversation, and we are seeing how we can actually get this ongoing in the coming days. How we all can learn and get better for it. And from me, thank you so much, and please have a good night rest.
All right. Good night.
Good
Cheers,
night.
everyone. Good night.